Welcome, CRB. It's just a minute past the hour, so I'll go ahead and get started and introduce you myself. Jeff Wegner with CRB San Diego office, and I'm here with Brendan Kress, and we're going to be talking about carrying on the theme of investing in our planet for this week's Earth Week. And Brendan and I are going to be talking about investing in your home sustainability. So Adam, Danielle, and Kevin spoke about investing in sustainability at CRB. We're going to be talking about investing in your home. We do have a lot to cover in just a short amount of time, so we're going to be going through our slides pretty quick to allow enough questions and answers at the end. So please use that chat feature and send in your questions, and those will get filtered through to the both of us. You can see that there is a Menti down at the bottom. I was having some technical difficulties, so please still use it, but I will just be switching screens in order to make that work properly. So if you want to log into menti.com, use that code that you see down there at the bottom. You can get geared up for a couple questions that we're going to have throughout the presentation. So I'm going to dive into my Wegner home example. So just a little bit about myself, mechanical engineer, and for the last 5 years at CRB, I've really been focusing on energy and sustainability services for our clients and how we can meet their ever-progressing ENS or energy and sustainability goals. And that's largely around waste, water, energy, and largely a carbon component. So this is my family. My wife, Amy, and I, we bought our home in 2009, so just over 12 years ago, to give you an idea of how old some of those appliances are. We have 2 girls, age 7. We have a boy, 5 years old, and we have a COVID puppy that we actually coincidentally got in February, right before the lockdown. So she's still been she's been isolated ever since her whole life. But the kids love to play soccer, baseball, art, ride bikes, as well as dad. That picture in the middle was just Easter Sunday, Potato Chip Rock for anybody that knows Poway, California. So where is Poway? Again, it's a suburb of San Diego. I'm about 20 minutes to the coast. I'm about 25 minutes from downtown San Diego. We do get some cold nights, so maybe not no snow or anything, but we do get down into freezing temps, and then we routinely get into triple digits during the summertime. So I offer that just as maybe a benchmark. So when I'm showing you some of my data, family of 5, living in a little bit further inland, so it is temperate, but we do get some hot summers and some cool winters. So last year, I had the opportunity to present Allogene Therapeutics. They were an ATMP manufacturing facility, and they wanted to prioritize 3 items as part of that design, and that was adaptability, collaboration, and sustainability. And for them, sustainability was inclusive of a zero carbon design. So as part of that Allogene effort, we went ahead and developed this 4-step process. And I've applied this 4-step process to many other facilities as well as my own home. And so I'm going to take you through those 4 steps and what I was able to do here at my home level. So step 1 was applying that best design and construction practice. So anybody that's purchased a home knows that there's a binder filled with just a lot of information. And as the broker is going through flipping pages and do you understand this? Do you understand this? They flipped over one that said energy efficiency mortgage, which caught my attention. Asked a little bit more about it. The broker said, oh, no one takes advantage of this. I said, well, it's something that I think I might want to. So let me know a little bit more about this. Put on by the Housing of Urban Development, or HUD, where they can finance 5% of the home purchase price or $8,000, whichever is less, to give you money through your escrow account for doing energy efficiency upgrades. And that $8,000 maybe translates to $50 mortgage, and there's no pre-approvals needed because the thought process is that additional mortgage that you'd be paying is roughly equivalent to the energy savings. So the first step on part of this program is to acquire a HERS, a home energy rating system, effectively an energy audit, where they tell you where to put your money. So HVAC was one of the biggest things for my house. It was again, it was an aging system. You can see the arrows there showing a 13 SEER and an 80% efficient. And I went ahead and upgraded mine to a 16 SEER, 95% efficient gas furnace. So it was top of the line. It's still more efficient than the baseline code is offering today. And I was able to pay for that through this energy efficiency mortgage. What I was also able to do as part of that same program was enhance the envelope. So I replaced all of my windows with dual pane, low E, argon filled glass. So not only does it have the thermal properties, but it also has the acoustics. So being able to drown out some of the noise from the backyard, or some of the jets that fly overhead, because I am proximity to the previous Top Gun facility. And then also, my house was built in 1972. It's 50 years old. There was no sidewall insulation, so we went ahead and updated all the insulation in the walls with loose cellulose, and then blue insulation in the attic as well, so equivalent of R13, R19 respectively. The other first upgrade that I did to myself to the house was I rewrapped the entire skin in hardy plank siding, so it's a cementitious material. And what this cement or even stucco type product allows you to do is add a additional thermal mass, which might not be a great insulator, but is a great capacitor. So it smooths out some of the peaks and valleys. So while the temperature outside might peak at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, my house doesn't see that highest temperature until maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. And by that time, you can actually open up the windows and start running the whole house fan. So as the house heats up, I can run the whole house fan. I can put it on a timer, draw in that air from outside that's now starting to cool off as we go into the evening time. So the whole house fan cools the house, and then the attic ventilator that you're seeing on the right-hand side is a little solar operated fan. And so it's running off the sun. So as the sun comes up and heats up my attic, the solar ventilator starts to power up and exhausts the attic, keeping the attic cool. So one cools the house, one cools the attic. What I was also able to do on my lighting was put in, as part of my roofing project that I did over COVID, was install some solo tubes. So I put one in each restroom that are in the core. They don't have proximity to the exterior windows. And then also in the hallway. And I get enough light that I rarely turn on the lights in either in the hallway or the restroom. And even during the middle of the night, I get actually enough moonlight that comes through that I can walk freely to get a drink of water in the middle of the night. Since we've been in lockdown for a while, I think everyone had a COVID project. My COVID project was this front porch. So I part of that roofing project, I extended the front porch out and got some additional shade on that southern exposure. I went ahead and put in some ceiling fans so I could use that during the summertime heat. I will also put in electric radiant heater so I could use that in the cool mornings. And it's really just put a lot of shade onto the exterior of the skin. And the last picture that I have is with regard to water conservation. So water conservation, I put in low flow fixtures, so shower heads, dual flush toilets, small flush, big flush, low flow lavatories. And then I also I ripped out all of the irrigation. So California, we've been in a drought for much too long, probably my entire life. We have had a lot of native trees. I planted some others that were drought tolerant, some other Australian species. All those trees in the background are all on my property. And so it's been great. And not only does that save 100,000 gallons of water a year, which translates to nearly $1,000 that would be coming out of my pocket, but it also translates to the additional cost of maintaining grass, the mowing, the trimming, the edging, the fertilizing, and probably most importantly to me is the time commitment. We're a pretty active family, and committing every Saturday morning to mowing the lawn is something that I wasn't excited about doing. So this has been a great, way for us to spend more time with the family. So the next step, now that we talked about innovation and kind of that reduce before you produce mentality, let's move on to electrification and removing all those fossil fuels. So what you're seeing around the image on the left-hand side is batteries and hydrogen and solar and EVs, and that is all part of the equation, but really the elephant in the room is heating when we're talking about electrification. So on the right-hand side, you're going to see my 4 natural gas appliances, and 3 of them struck out. And those are all the things that I've converted to date. I'm still a work in progress myself. There's 1 more appliance to go. And so I'm looking forward to doing that over the next 6 months. And at this time, I would ask if everyone could jump into the menti.com. And as I was saying, I was having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to hope that this works. And I'm going to switch screens real quick. But the question here is, which hot water heater is most efficient? Uniform energy factor. So if you want to log on to menti.com, use the code 54280295. What I'm hoping is that this works properly as people start to vote of which is most efficient, natural gas, electric resistance, or heat pump when it comes to replacing your hot water heater? I'll give that a few seconds. I'm going to refresh this just because it appears that there's only one person that has logged in. And I have a feeling that potentially this is not cooperating. Well, there's a few. Now we start to, maybe there's just a little bit of a lag there. So which hot water heater is most efficient according to its uniform energy factor? And again, this is just published data straight from the manufacturer. But as those continue to populate, you can see that there's a lot of heat pumps, there's quite a few natural gas, and then electric resistance rounding out the last. So I'm going to flip back over. There's still a couple more natural gas that are edging their way up. All right, so let me flip back over and show the results. So according to the uniform energy factor as published by the manufacturer, you can see that a heat pump has a tremendous energy advantage, almost to the magnitude of 4 times the efficiency of electric resistance and 6 times the efficiency of natural gas. It's incredibly more efficient. There are some drawbacks. It's a low grade heat, so it takes a lot of time. So you're relying on all of your storage capacity in order to maintain that heat. I had an emergency where I discovered that I had a leak in my water heater, but I luckily had a plan in place and already had a water heater picked out. So this is my water heater on the left. It's a heat pump water heater. It's effectively a small air conditioner that sits on the top, and it rejects cold air to the house and then puts the heat into the water. So during the summertime, if you want to know the coldest place in my house, go into the laundry room adjacent to this water heater and just stand in front of that nice fan, and you'll have nice 50-degree air being blown on you. So that's going to bring us to the next question, and I'm going to flip back over and see if I can get this to work. But this question is going to be with respect towards which cooktop is most efficient? Which is fastest to boil a cup or a pot of water? Natural gas, electric resistance, or induction? And so I'm trying to do this on my own phone to see that it's working. And it does look like some comments are coming through. But yeah, if you do log into menti.com, use the code 54280295, you can see some of the results start to populate. So it looks like it is working properly. So I'll tell you, this was one of the more difficult selling features at my house. My wife is she's a prideful cook. She doesn't like people messing with her equipment. She knows that I was on my electrification quest, so there was a lot of hesitation, and I will flip over to back to the slide. So it looks like there's an overwhelming opinion of induction. So let's flip back over. Slide forward. And what you'll see is gas is a little under 6 minutes, electric a little over 7 minutes, but the induction, 1.5 minutes to boil a pot of water. So I think one of the misnomers that I have a constant challenge with communicating is induction and heat pumps, they're still electrically driven, but they're a different technology than electric resistance. So when you say the word electric, we really do need to clarify that it's electric resistance versus an electric induction. But induction runs off magnets. It's a very efficient system. This is actually my stove on the left-hand side. It includes an air fryer. So I said, hey, Amy, give me your honest opinion. It's been 2 months. What do you think? And her feedback was, I love it. So the really only the challenge is that you need to make sure that you have metal clad cookware, because it is running off magnets. But from an efficiency standpoint, induction is by far the superior one there. So this is going to be my last question, and it's going to be which clothes dryer. So let me flip back over. And the question is, which clothes dryer technology is the highest efficiency according to its combined energy factor? Natural gas, electric resistance, or heat pump? This one's a little bit more evenly spread. I'll give that just a few more seconds to populate. But it looks like it's pretty evenly balanced there. And maybe because people know that it's not a trick question, but there's a little bit more difference of opinion on this one. So the vertical axis is the efficiency, and you can see that there are a lot of heat pumps that are most efficient, that they are higher on the efficiency curve on the vertical axis, while there are some that are below the gas dryer. But what you'll also notice is because heat pumps are notoriously low-grade heat, the cycle times are much, much longer. Now, that's not always necessarily a bad thing because it is more gentle on the clothing, but most people want to get their drying done within 60 minutes time or so. So the other drawbacks with heat pumps is that they do have a little bit more maintenance. There's condensate that comes off of that, so you need to figure out a way to drain it or to pump it out. And there's also multiple coils. There's effectively a hot coil and a cold coil that needs to be maintained ever so often. So I opted not to go the heat pump route because I did not want this electrification quest to backfire on me. So I took the efficiency penalty and went with electric resistance dryer, and we're going to see some of the results of that coming up. So electrification, so what has that effectively done with me? Well, it's lowered my gas usage. So you can see, and that's no surprise. So you can see as I've started to convert these different appliances, my gas is trending down towards zero. So those last 4 or 5 years, and you can see that it peaks in the wintertime, of course, when we're heating up the house, and then it settles down when we're still operating those base loads. So let's move on to step 3, resiliency and self-reliancy. Provide on-site renewable power with time of use energy storage strategies. The on-site renewable is pretty straightforward. The time of use energy strategies is what I think that there's a lot of conversations that we can have going forward. This is my solar system. It's an 8 kW. I had the luxury of knowing what my base load was, looking at my last bills, and then estimating what I was going to be growing into. So here's my 8 kW system. It produces about 12,000 kWh annually. If you do some simple math, that's about 1,600 kWh per kW. It's 24 panels, 340 watts. It's a Tesla array. And so far it's been great. It's performed well, and you can see when I flipped the switch, I was backfeeding the grid as a net average for those first couple months. And then as we moved into winter, you can see that I was getting much less production. To the amount, about 50% of my peak is my winter time. So moving into winter, there's less production, and therefore it starts to go back positive. How does that translate to cost? Well, pretty good. So you can see my cost, my bill for the end of 2021 was effectively zero once that solar was installed. Not to mention that's with including electrifying 3 out of 4 appliances. So that's a pretty great thing. When we talk about on-site storage, that's where I did not opt to go into getting a battery. It's about a $10,000 ad, and the return on investment for me was just a little too long. And I was hopeful that in the future I might have a truck. And I know that was asked about in yesterday's presentation as far as whether or not we're considering. And right now, there's still a lot of supply chain issues with a lot of the EV truck market. So I'm pretty hopeful that that will get worked out over the next 2 years. And then, of course, the infrastructure is improving daily. So I'm looking forward to having my vehicle that would hopefully have that bidirectional flow of electricity, both V2G, vehicle to grid, and vehicle to load, V2L. So I can charge it when I'm overproducing, and then I can discharge the battery when I need to. Other strategies that you can do for time of use energy. So on the lower left, you're going to see that the utilities are smart. They know that that their profits are being challenged with on-site renewables. So they've started to put peak pricing from the hours of 4 to 9 p.m. when the demand stays high and the supply drops off when the solar goes down. So some things that you can do, I already mentioned the cementitious siding. So again, that was kind of just creating more thermal mass as part of the house. But you can also pre-cool your house. So run the air conditioning from 2 to 4 p.m. and then close up all the windows and try to drift through that evening time period. You can apply these same practices to some of our facility design by making the chilled water temperature colder as an example. Same thing with my hot water heater. On the far right, you can see my schedule at 12 o'clock. I crank that hot water heater up to 131 degrees. So that gives me a little bit extra capacity that I can try to ride out through the evening period. And you can see in that example there that I was able to avoid the use of the water heater from the hours of 4 to 9. You can also use smart plugs, which the center graphic shows the beer fridge that I have. And again, from 4 to 9, it's 0 because I've programmed the smart plug to turn off during that time frame. And so this last step is consume 100% renewable grid electricity. I think this is the tried and true argument that just because you electrify does not make it clean necessarily. So if you are connected to a coal-based power plant, that is bad. That is not clean electricity. But the good news is that most states have what's referred to as a renewable portfolio standard. And so you're seeing here a lot of goals and targets, and then in dark green, you're seeing part of the actual RPS, including, for instance, California, where we have 100% green electricity required by our investor-owned utilities by the year 2045. So if you electrify your house or electrify your facility in 2045, by law, it will be 0 carbon. That's pretty great, but it's still a long ways away, which has paved the way for these community choice aggregates. So as the utilities have discovered that it's taking more and more money to maintain these old fossil-based power plants, they're getting out of the generation business and allowing that and leaving that to private sector. And so as private sector is putting more and more renewables online to comply with the state requirements, the customers now have a choice of where they want to buy their generation from. They're still going to use the wires and transmission and billing mechanism of the utility, but they have that choice. And so in California, we have about a third of the state has availability towards these CCA programs, myself included. So I can buy clean electricity today and everything, and so claim that 0 carbon in 2022. So to wrap things up in the summary here, show my investment of my solar array. So it was $16,000 out of pocket for that 8 kW. So you can do some quick math and see that that's about $2 a watt. I did get an instant $4,200 26% investment tax credit kickback. So that effectively had a net cost of $12,000, and I'm saving nearly $3,000 a year in utility costs, which translates to about a 4 or 5 year payback. And as I electrify more appliances or consider an EV, that savings just increases from there. Over the course of the next 20 years, you're looking at about $60,000 that stays in my pocket. So, going green certainly can have a financial impact to your wallet. Talking on the carbon front, my last year I was at 419 kilograms CO2, and you can see the waterfall chart of my first 3 appliances that I've converted: my water heater, my dryer, my range. I'm still left with that HVAC lingering out there, but a 2/3 reduction over the last 6 months has been pretty good. I'm excited on my pathway. Just a couple other smart tools that are here. So I've got a smart thermostat, smart water heater, smart water sensor. So this in the middle, the flume is a water sensor that goes onto my water meter, and it gives me a notification if I'm running the water for too long. So if I have a leak or maybe I left the hose on, it gives me a ping saying, hey, this has been running for X GPM for X minutes. You might want to go look at it. I mentioned the smart plugs. You can buy a 4-pack on Amazon for maybe $20. You can see up there on the top right, Tesla. I'm producing about 90% of my power currently. So I've produced 9.5 megawatt hours out of 10.5 consumed. And then the one I wanted to talk a little bit more about was the Sense Energy Monitor. So you can see those CT clamps, those current transmitters that go around your leads. I have 4 of them, 2 for the mains and 2 for the solar. And what that translates to is it allows me, every month you get a bill from your utility that says how much you spent, but you don't know where it went. And there's that old saying, you cannot improve on what you cannot measure. So now I at least know where, have a better indication. It's still a learning algorithm, so some of the data that you're seeing on the screen hasn't fully worked out. But on the top, or I'm sorry, on the bottom left, you're seeing the power demand in watts. And you can see I highlighted all those natural gas appliances that I've converted. And you can see that they are heavy hitters. So electric dryer, no surprise, 5,000 watts. Electric range, 2,000 watts. But the heat pump water heater is only about 150. Looking over at the pie chart, and starting from the top and working around clockwise, you'll see that there's a lot of always on and other, which that's still things that are either learning or I need to investigate further. But my biggest appliance is that electric dryer. That was previously at about 20%. We've got it down to 17 because we were heating the kids' towels when they got out of the shower. So that's something that we're not doing any longer, but we're going to put a towel rack in instead. But the electric range and electric water heater, those are really relatively small. And then you can see all the, from there. So again, just knowing where your energy is going allows you to make more intelligent choices. So my last slide here is just this master planning effort. There are going to be a lot of appliances that require 220-volt power. So when you're doing that, rather than having your electrician do it one by one, you might want to have them consider all of these things, your water heater, your HVC, your range dryer, your EV. Maybe you're going to put in a future ADU, or maybe you want a hot tub of your own. Those are things that you might want to just consider so that you can work out the panel ahead of time. And then focus on that greatest return on investment. I can't stress that Energy Efficiency Mortgage is a great program. That HERS test is very insightful, aka an energy audit. And then anything associated with a heat pump is going to be very efficient and give you your best ROI. And if you can take advantage of the investment tax credit, they've extended it to 2023. So currently you've got a 26% kickback, and next year that will fall off to 22 before it falls off drastically. So if you can take advantage of solar PV, the next 2 years is the time to do it. So I appreciate everyone's input. I know we went a little bit long, but with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Brendan and let him tell his story.